Hello, friends, and welcome back to what should be a festive edition of What Lies in the Sunday Telegraph. Unfortunately, we have rather serious matters to discuss today. For those who are new to the program, this is a weekly affair in which we read the Sunday Telegraph together. Well, I read it, you listen to me reading it, and apply the power of critical thinking to what passes for journalism in Australia's number one selling newspaper. Obviously, this is just days before Christmas 2019. And what is dominating the front page? My word, we have news. You might have seen it when I held it up before. There it is again. Black Xmas. Couldn't quite fit a full Christmas in there, but Xmas gets it across, doesn't it? It was the most dangerous bushfire day in our history. A 4,000 fiery army sent to find 112 terrifying blazes. They had little chance of controlling. Several fires created their own thunderstorms that sent lightning down onto exhausted crews. Stories and pictures, pages 6 to 9. That is the front page. We then managed to get some stuff on the strap. Coke class, NRL stars drug lessons, page 5, before the fires. 12 angels in our midst, special report starts page 40. And City Kids Send Hope, Little Eve's Festive Joy, page 11. And then an ad for Woolworths, who are providing 900,000 meals to people in need every month. Be interested in that as a news story to find out what's going on there. Anyway, rather unusual for the Sunday Telegraph to have news. Normally it's blonde women in white dresses, but desperate times call for desperate measures, I suppose. No mention of the front page of how the drier and hotter conditions might be being caused by Australia's rampant carbon emissions and exports. But you think most people are starting to draw those dots together on their own, don't you? They've had to admit there's a fire crisis. That's a major step. I mean, it's not something the Prime Minister's been capable of until today. Okay, pay kids or forfeit house. Properties belonging to deadbeat parents who don't pay child support bills are being sold off by the federal government to cover the money. Good. That's a good news story. Boris Johnson better not get caught up in that. Okay, and a pink test is on Becky's bucket list. You can't keep the cricket too far from the front pages at this time of year, I suppose. Fast bowler Pat Cummins and his partner Becky Boston will be raising funds on the streets of Clovelly to support people with breast cancer, even when they are at the Sydney Cricket Ground for the pink test. I've been coming to the pink test for 3 years, but this is the first year I've wanted to really get involved in a bigger way, Becky said. Good on you, Becky. It should be noted, Becky's wearing a white dress. She's not blonde, but she's seated with Steve Smith's wife, Danny Wills, who is blonde. So it's page 3, but at least we've reverted to Sunday Telegraph type. There is some comfort in these troubled times. Page 2, I should note, is a huge Woolworths ad, noting that they sell chocolate and Coca-Cola and batteries and more chocolate, which I guess covers most people's Christmas needs, doesn't it? Right, relegated to page 4 is Mixed Picks, which tells us the best things that's in this newspaper today. Nothing about fire. Weird. So number 1 is Merry Christmas to our readers, with a festive snowy scene and reindeer. No sign of Santa though, just reindeer and snow and pine trees. Make of the semiotics of that what you will. Buzz Awards, Australia's hottest sporting gossip column on the moments that change sport forever and the stars who won't be trading Christmas cards this year. Gossip, gossip, gossip. There's nothing to actually report on sport, but here we go anyway. We're overdue a bad one, what they're saying about the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. So, millionaires exposing themselves to a modicum of hardship. It's the Australian dream. Christmas angels, people who are spending their festive season helping others, the stories that will inspire you. Number 5, The Holiday Binge, our experts' guides to your next favourite show. If you watch this video and like it, I suggest Watchmen. Just Watchmen. You can get it on Apple TV if you pay for it. God forbid you might torrent it. Some people have. I don't recommend that. You should pay content creators. Or if you have got Foxtel that you haven't managed to cancel since Game of Thrones finished, Watchmen. For mine, the best TV of the year, and The Witcher seems pretty good. I'm a few episodes in. Anyway, moving on from that, the top 5 dressing tips for your perfect parties. So Stella Mag, top 5 dressing tips. Notice this is rated by the editor ahead of anything about the fires sweeping New South Wales, or, you know, how we might be able to prevent this in future by defossilising the economy. And an emergency gift guide. Don't panic, you still have 2 days to grab these last minute presents, and we're here to answer your SOS with some shopping suggestions. Shopping, shopping, shopping. It's not like consumerist society's gotten us in any trouble at all. And the way we were, nostalgia, a cool set of photos of Sydney as it was emerging as a city of the world when Sunday Telegraph readers were young. Sepia-toned nostalgia, isn't it good? It is good. Downfall of a footy star, from try line to white lines. Jared Mullins was a star for the Knights, but admitted his life spiralled out of control when he stopped playing. Because that's a story that is entirely attributable to drugs and not the culture of football or Australian celebrity. So page 6 and 7, Black Christmas. ScoMo's holiday raises the beach bar. I'm glad we got to this. Annika Smethurst. Page 6. Scott Morrison was expected to land at Sydney Airport last night after cutting short his family holiday in Hawaii. By 1 day, I believe. But still finally noticed that the country expects more of its Prime Minister than a holiday in Hawaii when our cities are choked with acrid smoke. I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last few weeks, as I do this, because I have to edit slightly, obviously it's still full of ums, let's call it a vlog. My breathing, I can hear the wheezing getting worse and worse as the air conditions have been deteriorating, and I'm probably particularly wheezy today, although I've got a new microphone, so who knows where we're at with that. Scott Morrison was expected to land at Sydney Airport. The Sunday Telegraph understands the Prime Minister secured his last seat on a plane leaving Honolulu at lunchtime on Friday. Which is odd for a man who can command the RAAF's VIP flight. It's not urgent enough for that, apparently. But I'm glad he got on a seat. I've been happy if he stood. So Annika's playing it pretty straight, which is fair enough. This is a news, not an opinion section. Obviously, I think it was ill-advised for any Australian Prime Minister holiday overseas. It's not like we don't fancy ourselves as a tourism destination. And you'll note that Australia's more successful Prime Ministers did not be seen to be holidaying overseas. And some people seem to think it's perfectly cool for a Prime Minister to be buggering off on holiday in the middle of a serious crisis. I'm not one of those people, but even if I accepted that view, the idea that you then lie about where you are is that if you have to lie, that's normally a pretty good indicator that what you're doing isn't okay. This isn't hard morals for normal people, but apparently it's utterly beyond the Prime Minister and all of his office. And if you've ever met an advisor in the Prime Minister's office, you would know that normal morality is generally utterly beyond them. Record number of fireys hold the line. Again, I would question how long we can ask volunteers to do this essential service. States, burners, bushfires spread. You all know this, and you can look out the window. Most of you have got thick acrid smoke choking your air. Wollemi pines are at risk of being wiped out. A lot of things are going to die before this is all over, and the takeaway lesson I keep coming to is that we're going to lose a lot, but if we take action, we can save more. The sooner and the faster we take action, the more we can save, even though we have to accept we're going to lose a lot. The Gospers mountain blaze. Ordinary people left Christmas parties and family gatherings, grabbed hoses and buckets, and joined fireys in the fight to save homes when the Gospers mountain fire crashed into Lithgow. Story, hey mate, we saved your house. State swelters. Temperatures surged past 40 degrees yesterday across New South Wales. My God, the mercury soared to 47 degrees in Western Sydney at Penrith and Richmond. I thought it was bad here at 39. Delay your trip, holidays warned as highways close. And there's a note that climate protesters have flooded the Harbour Bridge. A very small mention of climate change, but it is actually making it into even these pages. So that's something. Okay, then we're going to bat for bush battlers. This is the Bradman Bat story again. Jamie Pandaram running the same story 2 weeks in a row. So a bunch of signed bats that Don Bradman signed have been in storage in America, and the entrepreneur who has them has decided he can't ever flog them in America because Americans don't care about cricket, which is fair enough. Can you imagine trying to sell signed Babe Ruth baseball bats in Australia? You wouldn't get a great price compared to what America would get. This is an interesting story. Bone on beach from Queensland diver. A leg bone and foot that washed up on a New South Wales North Coast beach has been identified as the remains of a spear fisherman who disappeared almost 800 kilometres away. Andrew Page vanished while freediving with friends at Elliot Heads near Bundaberg in Queensland on November 23. This week his family were told his remains had been discovered on North Beach, south of Coffs Harbour. I'm somewhat surprised the aquatic life hadn't gotten into that, but things we learn, huh? All right, Aberbenny Morrison has a story on former Newington College top student Yanni van Gelder, who has been charged with raping a girl at a Sydney University party. Headline, "Stop struggling or it looks like I'm raping you." A bit like having to lie about things. Probably a little red flag should have gone up, but maybe this is the wrong thing to be doing. Right, fear that kids will die over vaccine. This is Jane Hanson. There are fears children will die after the vaccine to protect against the most common strain of meningococcal disease has again been knocked back for inclusion in the National Immunisation Program. I have some faith that the National Immunisation Program is doing a better cost-benefit analysis than the Sunday Telegraph, but I will reserve judgment on that until someone other than the Telegraph is banging the drum on it. Oh, polo news, page 13. Isn't that relevant to Sunday Telegraph readers' interests? Argentinian polo star Nacho Figueras is a man of extremes, flying in to play polo in sweltering Australia straight from a tournament in Aspen, Colorado. I can muster a modicum of excitement for yacht racing, but polo just belongs to another world that no one who buys this paper could possibly care about. So we have a smiling assassin who survives the trolls. This is Pia Miranda, who's been on Survivor and survives the trolls. Right, apparently we've won ADHD's shame badge. Sue Dunlevy, who has always got a story for the pharmaceutical industry. Australia has one of the highest rates of children diagnosed with ADHD in the world, leading the United Nations to call for an urgent review and tougher controls on prescriptions. The UN has expressed serious concern over diagnosis procedures have resulted in significant increases in psychological stimulant drugs in children. Not saying it's universal, but I know quite a few kids' ADHD prescriptions that get traded for other drugs. Don't know the prevalence of that, but I definitely know it happens. Not traded by the children, traded by their parents. Right, bust to boom breaks records. The real estate industry is back on a roll with interest rates effectively zero. Lots more people are borrowing lots more money. We're in the final round of Australia's great real estate Ponzi scheme. When it collapses, we're all going to be massively impoverished. Isn't that something to look forward to? Electricity bills dropped by average of $65. Household power bills have dropped by an average of $65 in the past 12 months, according to new data from the Competition Watchdog. Drug dealer bust. A man has been charged with multiple drug offences as part of an ongoing investigation into the supply of prohibited drugs in the Redfern area. That sounds like a police media release, doesn't it? Police arrested the 35-year-old for drug supply at 9:35pm on Friday at a home on Cope Street, Waterloo. The man was allegedly supplying methamphetamine from his home. The arrest was part of Strikeforce Petal. Teens up to online mischief. Who'd have thought teens would be up to mischief? Teenagers are using virtual private network technology to access sites parents and schools think they've been blocked from, a leading cyber safety educator has warned. Bribe to get drugs to jail. We have Vaughan Hunt, who is of a somewhat Polynesian appearance. He's left court in the picture. Prison guard allegedly smuggled drugs, mobile phones and steroids into jail for inmates to help feed his gambling addiction. Oh dear. So, there's a whole lot of societal ills wrapped up in that story, isn't there? Go to the clubs to get away from the smoke, mate. Just play some pokies to pass the time. Maybe get on the horses. Some money on the ponies, eh? Okay, weeding gave me cancer. This is a Linda Silmalis exclusive. A household mum of four, Sydney woman Michelle Porter, would spend most of her weekends pottering in her large garden. While her husband mowed the lawns, the Avalon Doctor's receptionist kept the extensive paved areas around the pool, under the pergola, around the side of the house and in front of the garden free of weeds. She used the popular herbicide Roundup, which she found in the local supermarket sometime in the 80s to help her weed her Northern Beaches home. She was using Roundup up until July 2008, when one day she had difficulty speaking. Right, so she's got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. They're suggesting the Roundup is responsible, and there's a lot of dangerous chemistry available to people who have not been informed of the risks, and Monsanto does not have a great track record on that front, do they? So the source, political gossip with Anna Kosmetas, Linda Somalis and Miranda Wood. Headline, Mahalo ScoMo, Mahalo. How good is Australia? How good are Australians? The source couldn't help but think of Scott Morrison's now famous election night declaration after hearing about the entrepreneurial types at men's shirt brand Mr. Koya. The clothing company decided the best response to the PM's ill-timed holiday to Hawaii was to produce its new design called Mahalo ScoMo. Mahalo, of course, being the Hawaiian for thank you. The orange shirt featured a fetching topical print with the PM's face proudly stamped in the centre of yellow hibiscus flowers. Funny, I shared this on social media around Wednesday, I think. Australia is reeling from an unprecedented bushfire emergency, and to rub coal into the wound, the Prime Minister has smirk-bombed his way to Hawaii for a refreshing Mai Tai. Mr. Koya's website reads, gee, that's a harsh quote there, isn't it? To mark this momentous abrogation of responsibility, Mr. Koya has created the Mahalo ScoMo, an enduring combination of Hawaiian vibes, simpering leadership vacuums, and the colours of an increasingly combustible Australian summer. Now, notice they're quoting someone else, not daring to say it themselves, but they found the quote they're looking for, haven't they? A bit harsh? Well, the shirts are proving a hit regardless of your view. Mr. Koya co-founder Yema Akbar said the brand, which is donating 100% of any sale proceeds from the $72.61 shirt to the Rural Fire Service, has been overwhelmed. Hundreds of shirts have been snapped up, which means we'll be donating over $10,000 to the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, he said yesterday. The first donation will be made before Christmas Day, and we're organising a transfer right now. So hard to organise bank transfers, isn't it? Takes forever. Whoa, dude. Speaking of ScoMo's Hawaiian holiday, Sam Crosby, the McKell Institute CEO, who ran for Labor as its candidate for Reid at the last federal election, sent Twitter into a meltdown last week after defending the trip. Premier Gladys Berejiklian will no doubt be hoping her former Chief of Staff turned John Holland Corporate Affairs General Manager Larry McGrath will help deliver the new Sydney Football Stadium with a minimum of fuss. Oh, God. Surely there are other qualified people in this country. We don't need the same bunch of jerks who get us into these horrible bloody messes going round and round, do we? Opposition Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Christina Keneally is among the names being put forward as a possible candidate to replace New South Wales Labor President Mark Lennon. For some reason, the departure of Alicia Aitken-Radburn, leaving New South Wales Labor HQ, is worthy of mention, apparently. I can't think why they featured her. Story called Wedding Crashes, loud music and screaming, yelling and carrying on at a Sydney waterfront wedding venue and function centre with a checkered history is ruining the idyllic lifestyle of local residents, they claim. How dare normal people be allowed anywhere near their beaches, eh? Academic loses Iran prison appeal. Here's some news on page 29. Australian academic Dr. Kylie Moore-Gilbert, jailed in Iran's notorious Evin prison, has lost an appeal against her 10-year sentence. Officer bitten. A man allegedly bit a police officer while being arrested for shoplifting. The 22-year-old is accused of stealing from liquor retailers during November and December 2019 in Zetland and Alexandria. He also allegedly assaulted a staff member at a store in Alexandria. Tiny little story headline, The Woman Made to Kill by the System. Jamie Lee Dolhegai wasn't born a killer and never wanted to be one, but failings of the mental health system had led her to become one, and it seemed a jury agreed as she was acquitted of the murder of Morlan Rathod, although she was found guilty of his manslaughter. Right, memory lane, bit of boomer nostalgia. The Australia Institute's managed to get Annika Smethurst to run their story of would be good to give the unemployed a taxpayer-funded Christmas bonus. It almost certainly would. If we're going to hand out money, why not give it to the people who don't have much? Totally contrary to Conservative ideology, particularly the Prime Minister's prosperity theology. But, something I think Jesus would actually approve of. Doomsday Prepper was a gun runner for Syndicate, who'd have thought. With a stockpile of guns and 5 kilograms of silver, Jason Ross Maloney was preparing for the end of the civilised world. At least that's what he told Strikeforce Raptor officers when they came bang on his door on Sydney's northern beaches. I always wonder why these nuts think precious metals are going to retain value in the event of a breakdown in civilization. Not particularly useful. Drinking water, penicillin. There's other things I'd be investing in for that scenario. Wow, now here's a disgusting piece of gutter press. The Snitch, the Law and Order gossip, have done a Photoshop to make Lloyd Bapp, the state's Director of Public Prosecutions, look like a rapper. Do you think they're doing that because his skin's a bit brown? Serious man, extremely qualified. senior counsel. The point they're trying to make is that apparently he donned a rapper outfit, not the one he's shown in, for a Christmas party, and then they felt they loved the concept so much they had to digitally reproduce it. Some might think if you can't get the photos, then maybe it's not really a story, but no, we're not going to let that get in the way anymore. There's a fire wraparound, and then we get into sport. Oddly enough, the Sydney Thunder cricket game got called off because the smoke haze at the Manuka Oval yesterday doesn't seem to rate a mention. Might have happened before the paper was gone to bed. Here's some more stuff about yacht racing. We don't care about any other yacht race all year long, and then suddenly apparently we're instant experts this time of year. And someone who used to be a peripherally part of the sailing community, I don't mind actually watching, particularly, the start is always very interesting tactically if you know how to read a race, but I think it's got the coverage, and extend the coverage has more to do with the extremely wealthy individuals who are involved than it does to do with any other interest. Ian Chappell's telling us that New Zealand's bumper blitz has only left their own bats exposed. Then he's going back to the 1932-33 Bodyline series. So now we come to world news on page 84. Merry breakfast for Boris. Bit more, another victory lap for Boris Johnson's enormous electoral mandate. I'll doff my lid to that and concede that point. Prince Harry's dressed up as Santa for a children's charity that supports children of soldiers who died in combat, which sounds a bit like Legacy, but isn't. Prince Philip is being taken to hospital as a precautionary measure. The poor man is 98 years old and won't live forever. And I hope is remembered for his many significant achievements, unless for the so-called gaffes, which mostly to me sound like a well-intentioned old man with a sense of humour, but any excuse to stick the boot in, but the Royals do have enormous privilege, so I don't worry too much about them. Idris Elba to rescue of Africa. Seems like a bit much to expect. Idris Elba and his wife have been granted honorary citizenship in his late father's homeland of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leonean authorities gave diplomatic passports to the British star and his Canadian wife Sabrina Daur, asking them to serve as brand ambassadors for the country. I'm not sure that's to the rescue, and I'm not seeing that, but Idris Elba's a pretty righteous dude, so cool. I bet he can do some good for Sierra Leone. We got Trump's state of war with Pelosi. It's a useless kind of headline, isn't it? Donald Trump is headed south to sunny Florida for Christmas while plans for his impeachment trial back in Washington remain clouded. Trump is expected to be acquitted of both charges in the Senate. What charges? The impeachment charges, I suppose, where Republicans have the majority in what will be the third presidential impeachment in US history. So anyway, yeah, impeachment. I assume the Democrats are hoping to drag some interesting testimony out. Which brings us to Peter Credlin. PM made himself an easy target. Oh, even Peter's sticking the boot in. While much of this criticism is unfair, it could have been handled better. It certainly could have, Peter. It certainly could have. Prime Ministers usually take the holidays in January. Of course, the Prime Minister can't go in January because he's off repping Whitehaven coal. He's literally had to take the holiday now because he's flogging bloody coal. Thumbs up. I mean, they've even put the picture of him sitting on his own in Hawaii. It's lonely being a Prime Minister wearing his stupid baseball cap. Although Peter does say it's ignoring the will of the people to mandate renewable energy targets. Peter says Australians don't think Australia should send industry offshore and make power unaffordable, rather the rest of the world makes a far bigger contribution to emissions than we do. Oh, God. Coal salesman. Who? Right, Annika Smethurst is writing a column about how she thinks ScoMo should be allowed to take a holiday. Maybe, arguable, debatable. Should he lie about being on holiday? What does that say about him? What does it say about even his acceptance of the suitability of his holiday timing? Questions Annika could be asking. Oh, God, fake even-handedness, saints preserve me. I had my house raided, so I have objectivity, and I think the Prime Minister's awesome. Oh, God, Annika, please. Piers Ackerman is eulogising the dead volunteer firefighters who died in a truck rollover, which makes me feel ill, considering... I mean, I know he's trying to co-opt that wave of revulsion. The fact that we're asking volunteers, unpaid, to deal with this crisis sickens me. But Australia has a very long history now of asking volunteers to make up the failings of our political leaders. Lucy Khan is waging war Will 2019 be remembered as the year we finally reached peak gender idiocy, she says. With only 10 days remaining until the new decade, it's safe to say so. Far from the annals of I swear I'm not making this up comes the shrill clarion call to make Father Christmas gender neutral. Father Christmas is seemingly too biased towards the patriarchy. And here's the source. The issue triggered clickbait headlines, yes, thanks to a British mum who claimed she was humiliated for using the term Father Christmas on social media. I've been shamed on a Facebook group for using the term Father Christmas and told that Santa is now seen as gender neutral. The woman told the Plymouth Herald, that's where you're picking up your fake gender war, then claiming you see a peak in it, and then we print it as news, and then every lounge bar bore in the country is telling people, oh, it's gender neutral stuff's gone too far. Read in the paper, don't like Father Christmas. The fact that almost no one even calls it Father Christmas and they all say Santa anyway. And if you were shamed in a Facebook group for saying it, maybe you were just on a Facebook group full of assholes. Maybe it doesn't make as good a story, does it? Right, adapt and overcome is the only way. We're not going to do anything about climate change, we just have to adapt. Bushfires, heatwaves and drought have battered Australia for millennia. This is the old line. Here we go. Where we do have data, it is undeniable that change is afoot. Rainfall records have been broken. The bushfire season has been brought forward. Shortening the window available to conduct critical hazard reduction work, yes. Periods of extended dry are lengthening, yes. Towns are experiencing unprecedented temperature highs, yes. Past and present fire chiefs and even farmers themselves, even the farmers, say the present conditions are unparalleled. We've seen a shadow debate in recent weeks about whether or not in the midst of a raging bushfire is the right time to discuss climate policy. The truth is there will never be a good time to talk about it. Yes. Apparently we can't avoid the conversation. Global debate about emissions targets aside, the public are at the very least needs to be reassured that its future is in safe hands. It is not. But they want a conversation without the histrionics and point scoring. I don't know. I can barely breathe the air in my house, but apparently I'm not allowed to get emotional about that. Oh, and the drought has forced us to pay over water management. Yeah, we manage it terribly. We let cotton farmers, soybean farmers, and nut farmers buy enormous amounts of water really cheaply because we don't price the stuff properly. And we wonder why there's none of it because an underpriced resource is undergoing scarcity. Who could have thought that would happen? Oh, what is this bollocks? Oh, there will undoubtedly be a review of land management. You know, it's the great British imperial tradition is, wait until the bodies have cooled and hold a review. Oh, and then we're thanking people for their service. So at some point there'll be a review. Favourite photos of yesterday. Oh, New Year's Eve. Start getting ready for New Year's Eve. Planning where you can watch the fireworks, assuming there's no total fire ban. Good luck. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker gets a mere 3 stars. Force falters in saga finale. I will see that myself and judge. Jumanji: The Next Level gets 3.5. I've heard it's pretty good. Cats gets 3.5, which is not many people are giving Cats that much. It's interesting. I think wait for digital on that one, folks, unless you just have to go to the movies to get some breathable air. Not that there's a climate crisis or anything. Then we're filling the pages with movie trivia. Kathy McCabe is reliving 2019's 19 most memorable music moments. Apparently Neighbours is leaving viewers hanging, writes Mercedes Maguire. That's what happens when you let someone called Mercedes write the news, isn't it? Another page on cats. Curiosity thrilled this cat. Angela Mollard gives us 10 stages of Christmas house guests. Duncan Lay is writing about Star Wars, a man whose views are utterly irrelevant. 2 pages of on the Royals. It will continue to rain, one imagines. Party Confidential. There are parties. Right, top models are turning their backs on leading agency, an excuse to put a woman in a very small bikini. Her name's Abby Weir. She's announced her departure from IMG with a post on Instagram. A snub has blindsided Jacobs. That's Stevie Jacobs. Party continues for wife of alleged coke king. Her husband might be in prison, however that doesn't stop Kelsey Doyle from kicking up her heels to celebrate her 30th birthday party. Margot Robbie's telling stories about how she passed out in the toilets of the 2009 Logies. I always like Margot Robbie, to be honest. Anyone with the name Margot who can make a living in 2019 of celebrities got to have a little bit more than just their looks, you'd think. Annette Sharp is, again, it's all year in review stuff. I mean, they've pretty much gone to bed and they've been disturbed by the fires. And the Insider is asking, rebuilding the House of Windsor, can the Royals reverse the damage of 2019? Damage largely done by tabloid hype. So, that's that. It's not the last of the year. By my count, it's the 22nd of December, so we'll get one more episode in for 2019. Obviously, I'm a little festive right now, and I do wish you all I think I'm going to go with Merry Christmas. I'm comfortable with that. I hope Santa is kind to you. I would say Santa, even if I wasn't worried about the gender histrionics. I hope your family and you and your friends are safe. And I hope in the new year, all of us can force our political leaders to get serious about climate action and defossilise the economy so that things like this summer become rarer. I don't think we can stop them completely. But if we keep pulling the fossil stuff out of the ground and burning it, it's going to get worse. And on that happy note, we'll see you next week. Do please like, share and subscribe. Review and recommend is also very helpful. And I hope this sounded okay. I've got a new little Bluetooth lapel mic blazing away there. So see how that goes. Thanks very much, folks.